basket program. Again, Bobby Arceneaux at the desk with me, and Bobby Arceneaux is the voice on 106.3. He sits there with Hillary. I think you and Hillary will be out there this year calling games. And districts have changed a little bit. Some of you are familiar with the new districts. Some of you don't, you know, we're so accustomed to having, say, Terrebonne with South Terrebonne. That's not the case anymore. You usually don't see Vanderbilt with South Terrebonne. That is the case. Assumption coming down to 4A, it really gets interesting. So what we want to do is take a look at each of these districts. We're going to get Bobby's input on maybe who some of these teams are playing if we are not real familiar with it. First, let's look at District 7-5A, which is the only 5A district in our area, and we can't call it necessarily the Bayou District anymore because it's broken up. Central Lafourche, now Central Lafourche is pre-district games. Ponchatoula, Patterson, Brother Martin, E.D. White. H.L. Bourgeois has Clark, Ellender, South Terrebonne, and Vanderbilt. New Iberia, that's a new one, folks. We here at HTV are going to have to follow New Iberia everywhere they go now. They will be playing St. Martinville, Lafayette, Acadiana. Ooh, don't want to do that. I hope they don't get beat up too bad. And then Pineville. South Lafourche will be playing Destrehan, Plaquemine, John Ehret, and Helen Cox. Terrebonne High School will have Ellender, South Terrebonne, E.D. White, and Estruma. And if I'm not mistaken, that Estruma game is game 10. I think that's the open date for Terrebonne, game 10 in their district, so they have Estruma that last playing date. Thibodaux High School always plays a tough schedule this year. New coaching Christopher Dugas. They will have Higgins, Zachary. Boy, Zachary's a good football team, too. Assumption and Rummel. Rummel's always good. And then Westgate. And Westgate, for you folks out there who don't know, it made it all the way to the semifinals last year. Lost to West Monroe right before maybe getting into the Dome. They will be taking on Brobridge, John Curtis, St. Thomas More, and Karen Crow. And leave that up there just for a little while, Jason. And here we go, Bobby. Who's got the toughest?
Ooh, Westgate.
Brobridge is always good in 4A.
Oh,
John Curtis, they're pretty good.
They're not bad. They're not bad.
St. Thomas More and Karen Crow. And Karen Crow's getting better and better. I would agree with you. And this goes such a long way with PowerPoint.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, when it comes right down to it, if you play in teams that are in your particular classification and they're winning, you're in good shape. And I got to tell you, John Curtis is going to give them some power points. The thing is we're saying this not knowing how good teams are going to be. Yeah, we can only go of what we know from the past. For example, H.L. Bourgeois' first game is against Clark. Clark is not a particularly good football team, but that's not to say this year they won't be great.
Right, yeah.
Ellender's going through some growing pains right now, and they have been for quite some time. But the situation right now is a coach, you know, and I understand they may have a new coach here, but that is not etched in stone, so we'll see. It's just a situation where you want to get as many PowerPoints as you can. I've never asked you what you thought about New Iberia and Westgate coming into this. What do you think?
Oh, I'll tell you what, the people, I hang on that area a lot for work, and the people over there are really excited about coming this way. Both those schools, Westgate and actually the newest school in that area, but Westgate's like a Dutch town. You know, when they divided the line, it looked like, you know, a lot of athletes that were going to New Iberia at one time, like when Dutchtown was going to Santamon.
Right.
Split that line, you know. Boy, I tell you what, Westgate has some players, and but they're excited to come here. Their biggest gripe probably is going to be the Tuesday night basketball, baseball game in South Lafourche. I mean, that's just a hike to get there and get back. Vice versa for South Lafourche. You know, that's the furthest point to travel. But those guys over there are really looking forward to coming here and play.
That was in our position, there was a chance of them maybe having a Hornville or a Destrehan in that particular district. So, you know, it just depends, I guess, on what you wanted out of the situation. I will say this about Westgate. They're not only good in football, they are very good in basketball, boys and girls. They're very good in baseball. I don't think softball are particularly strong or anything.
Basketball, they always play in the Ellender tournament every year.
That is right.
Yeah.
They come down to Houma every year, and now they're going to be in a district real close by. Let's look at District 8-4A. Now, it's still going to be called District 8-4A, and I'm getting ready. When football season starts, I'm going to go crazy with all the different district names because they all over the place. Assumption drops down, South Terrebonne drops down, Ellender, Morgan City, and Vanderbilt stay in, and gone is Lutcher, gone is Belle Chase, gone is, who else was in that one? Helen Cox.
Helen Cox, yeah.
Helen Cox. So here we go. Assumption's got Donaldsonville, E.D. White, Thibodeau, Plaquemine, St. James, and Lutcher. Ooh, this is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Ellender's got Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois, West St. Mary, Albany, North Lake Christian, and East Jeff. Morgan City has Como. Ooh, that's tough. Berwick, Reed, Jeanerette, Pearl River, and Franklin. South Terrebonne's got Miller McCoy. Now, Miller McCoy is a new school in New Orleans. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, one of the, I don't want to call it a magnet school, but it's the new charter type school. And I understand that they actually are very heavy athletically, but their coach just left to go to like South Plaquemine, so I'm not sure. Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois, E.D. White, East Jeff, and Abbeville. And I know a bunch of people out there saying, wait a minute, that's not non-district. Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois. Yes, it is, folks. They are no longer in the same district. Vanderbilt opens up with that traditional rivalry, which at one time we heard was going away. We thought they wasn't going to play each other anymore. But Vanderbilt opens up with E.D. White. Then they have St. Charles Catholic. Man, that's tough. Plaquemine, always a pretty good football team. St. James, who knows this year with Rick Gailey going, what they're going to have. Belle Chase, so they kept Belle Chase on the schedule. And then in the middle of the year, they have H.L. Bourgeois. So who wins your award for maybe toughest schedule?
Well, I tell you, I got to go with Vanderbilt because E.D. White, St. Charles, Plaquemine, St. James. Belle Chase is always going to be a decent ball club. Bourgeois, from what I understand, they're going to be a little younger over there, but they got some players coming.
Oh, and that's the same thing here. I hear that a lot of athletes. I think Assumption's got a pretty tough one.
They sure do. I was looking at Assumption too.
Donaldsonville's always good. They do have St. James on there. Lutcher, obviously, is Lutcher. Thibodeau High School, 5A school. So if Thibodeau does well, they get power points out of it. And folks, that's what it all boils down to. I could tell you, South Terrebonne last year was 7-3. 7 wins, 3 losses, did not make the playoffs.
Right.
Just because of their pre-district schedule. And because some of the teams in that district didn't do that well either. But it's a situation where you got to get those power points to get in the playoffs. Once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. We have 2 teams in our area from 3A, but we're going to wait till after this break to get to them. Again, E.D. White is split from Patterson this year. We'll talk about that when we get back from this break.